Today, I just felt this morning like compelled to reach out to people because we're all in this quarantine together. We're hopefully practicing social distancing. And when they told us to stay inside, I was at peace with that. I love my home, fortunate to have one. And I am also at peace with myself more often than not. And one thing that I thought about was um, when I was thinking about the world and how everyone's going to have to go and stay in their homes was that some of us are alone. Some of us are going to be with a partner or spouse. Some of us are going to have children quarantining with us, animals, family members, roommates, and how for some, especially those alone, like isolating will be hard because they are alone with themselves. So that being said, I also believe that you could be right next to somebody and still feel loneliness or still have a lot of these doubts about yourself or lack of self-love. So I just wanted to talk about self-love a little bit because I feel like I've done a lot of work in this area. It took, many years to find it for me. And I've seen how valuable it is in my life now. So I just have some thoughts and hopefully they bring some, love to your life. So again, the reason I bring this up is just because I feel like there are a lot of people right now who aren't comfortable being alone with themselves. We have so many ways to distract ourselves in life from thinking about the big things and, going out to bars with your friends, drinking, smoking, working many, many hours, constantly being around friends or family to sort of like minimize like an escape mechanism. We all use them, Netflix, and sometimes we're like getting away from ourselves because we're not super comfortable with ourselves. So I'm here to hopefully bring some comfort to you. So I feel like there are different levels of self-love. There's like dislike for yourself where you just kind of don't like yourself. It's whatever. Then there's like you really just don't love yourself. You don't feel you're worthy of certain things. And then there's like the active self-hate, which, that one like breaks my heart to see people like always down on themselves and actively like saying mean things to themselves. Like that hurts my heart. So hopefully we can at least resolve people's self-hate today, if not get you to a place of self-love. And then there's people who like themselves, but deep down they don't love themselves. So there's a lot of different levels you could be at, and you could be at self-love, and that's great, and that's so happy for me to hear. So personally, I feel like these things are actively things that you have to work on. I feel like I do love myself at this point, but I have to remind myself of that sometimes. It's not always super clear. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you're saying those things again to yourself, or you're saying, just things that aren't healthy to your being. So I've narrowed it down today to like 4 areas that I feel really cause or can cause a lack of self-love. So the first one is I feel like we all have this person that we see as our perfect selves. So there's like the person who, okay, she's on time to everything. She's always made up. She's fit. Or he is, strong and making a lot of money or always happy. Like there's that person who we see in our minds as the perfect version of ourselves. And then there's who we actually are in this moment. And who we actually are may be really close to who we think is our perfect self and who we're striving to be. or maybe not striving, but just see it off in our brain somewhere. And then you could get further and further away from that. And I think part of where a lack of self-love could be happening is you're so far from the person you're like idolizing in your mind. And so number one is like, how far are you from this person that you're wanting to be? And do you realize that regardless of being perfect or not, that doesn't make you worthy or less worthy of love? Because think about it. How many people in our lives do we love despite or regardless of the fact that they have their flaws, or they have little things that drive you nuts, or sometimes they're mean to you, or sometimes they make mistakes, but you can find ways to love them regardless, even though they're not a perfect person, because newsflash, none of us are. So when it comes to you struggling with idolizing this person who you think you should be and a person who you are right now, if you can learn to love another person despite all their flaws, mistakes, poor decisions, times of upset, then you can hopefully learn to love yourself regardless of not being perfect. Okay? That's number one. That's the first area that I feel people tend to struggle with their self-love. The second is the good old past, the decisions we make, the mistakes we've made, the things we're not happy about, the way we reacted to something or someone. So the past, the things that we deal with in hindsight. And sometimes it's really, really hard to forgive yourself for those things, to forgive yourself for decisions, and like, trust and believe everyone has made a bad decision. Everyone has hurt somebody. Everybody has intended to do a good thing and it didn't pan out that way. And the reality is, you're not unworthy of love because you make a mistake. You just, now you have different tools, you've grown as a person, and in hindsight, maybe you would do things differently. And like, that alone is worthy of love, you know? So the reality is, like, everyone has made a mistake in life. That's just the reality. So that's the second big area that I see people like hating on themselves about, or, you know, just getting down on themselves, not fully loving themselves because they're like, wow, that thing I did 10 years ago, I just can't forgive myself. The next thing is society, and what society tells us to be and who they want us to be, and the mold that they ask us to fit in, and like the labels they put on us. So in a perfect world, according to society and businesses, there would be two kinds of people, men and women, and women would operate a certain way and serve a certain purpose, and men would operate a certain way and serve a certain purpose. And that would be really easy for businesses to sell to us and to know the demographic, because there would be two kinds of people in this world. But the reality is that world would be extremely boring and not a world that would have much creativity, because they would be told to like stay in this box that society wants them to be in. So as an example that I think of is like, and we're starting to accept this more and more, but like this idea that men are not allowed to have feelings or care or cry or have emotions, and they have to do certain jobs because if they don't, then that's not manly. And we're deconstructing those ideas, which is really great, but we're also like still maybe teasing each other for them, or maybe hard on ourselves about that. So if you're a man that cares and sheds a tear every once in a while, I'm here to tell you, do exactly that and love yourself for it. So just like society and all these views and all these labels that we put on ourselves, it's just a lot of pressure. And if you're not fitting the mold, like you're feeling like a failure, and that feeling of failure alone can make you not want to love yourself or to not know how to love yourself. Okay, moving right along to the fourth one that I feel really shapes whether we are people who love ourselves or not. To step back on the society. So society also is like telling you loving yourself is not okay. So you have to wear this kind of outfit and be this type of shape and be like wear makeup if you're not this perfect person that they've defined for us. So that's also another thing society does, is like already sets you up to fail to love yourself. It's very hard to do in today's society. So the last thing is opinions and past experiences. So this really, like, where I see this showing up is in like breakups, opinions of what your partner thinks you should be, how they think you should look and act and all of that. And if they break up with you, you're somehow then unworthy of love from anyone because that person didn't love you or couldn't love you. And the reality is, if you're with somebody who's constantly trying to change you, now I want to define change and hold you accountable. So remember that first one where the person that we strive to be, that best person that we want to be. So if you're with the right person, they should know sort of who you are aspiring to be every day. And if they know you that well to know who you're aspiring to be, and they help hold you accountable for being that person, that's one thing. And I feel like that's really healthy because, hey, doing things with a partner is sometimes way easier than all by yourself. But if somebody's actively trying to change you, like, oh, you need to dress like this, wear this, lose weight, gain weight, wear makeup in my presence at all times, what have you, I hate to tell you, but you're probably with the wrong person. Because no one should try to change you. You get to be exactly who you are. And if that person can't accept them, then, or you, then they're not worthy of your love. Because that's not what this life is about. It's not finding people and treating them like Play-Doh and molding them into exactly what you need. It's, allowing the person who is exactly what you need to show up in your life and to have patience for that. So yeah, you might want to look at your relationship if somebody's trying to constantly change you. If they're trying to actively help you be accountable for being your best self, that's different. So opinions, play a big part because I have so many little anecdotes from different relationships that pop into my head where I have to go, like that's what that person said. That's what they wanted out of somebody. And if I don't want to have my nails done every single day, then I don't have to. And that's a really lame example, but you get what I'm saying. Like we all have things from past relationships that, oh, I'm unlovable because my ex said I need to lose weight and I haven't done that yet. And past experiences like teachers and different people who told you could never amount to anything or whatnot. So like these little stories that chime into our brains and subconscious and keep us from loving ourselves because of one excuse or another. So, and what was I going to say on that? Basically that, there's all ways that things show up and you have to be mindful of them. So when you're struggling with an issue like self-love, it's not going to be solved in a day. It's not going to be solved just by this video. It can hopefully be the biggest thing and the biggest goal, I think, with any problem is to bring awareness to it. So like, oh, I keep dating people who are not nice to me. Why? Why am I tolerating that? Is that a lack of self-love? It is a lack of self-love. Okay, how do I acquire self-love and how do I practice that? And really it does, number one is like bringing awareness to the fact that it's not there, why it's not there, and then actively, when those little voices do chime in, you're actively going, wait a minute, that's that self-love trying, or lack of self-love trying to chime in, and it doesn't belong here anymore. Those aren't true. So a little assignment coming from all of this, now that we know the ways that self-love or a lack there, what could be causing a lack of self-love, I implore you to write a giant ass list of everything, big or small, that you feel is the reason why you don't love yourself. Every mistake you've ever made, every person that ever told you something about yourself that made you not like it, any reason why you don't love yourself, and just list it all out. And I think it would be really helpful to do it by these categories, because I'm going to tell you why in a second. So once you have like everything written down, and obviously you'll do that later because I'm going to keep talking, but write a huge list. Just put everything out on paper, every reason you don't like yourself. And if you're afraid of someone reading it, like do it on your phone or speak in code words, like use initials or something, but just get it all off of your chest, off of your heart, out of your head, like just get it onto paper. And when you get it onto paper, you're gonna hopefully instantly feel like just that much better, because you're like, wow. And I'm not gonna lie, the list could be overwhelming. You could be looking at it going, wow, this is huge, and how do I face this? And some things are even hard to bring up again, like things that you've buried really deep down in your soul. Like it may be hard to even write it out because it's that painful, that you feel that badly that you hurt somebody or you hurt yourself. But like, I'm telling you, it's buried maybe deep, but it's in there, and it's causing stress, it's causing depression, it could be causing physical ailments like IBS, acid reflux, all of those things. Like the things when our bodies aren't working properly, some of it is because we're holding on to these things, and like it's not positive for us to be doing that, right? So just get it all on paper. Get it all on paper. Even write on the top of the paper like the 4 categories and figure out which one it falls into. If you're not sure, this isn't going to be graded. Just put it into the one you think it falls into and write it down. Get it on paper. Try to be, at this point, like try not to attach to the emotion of each thing, like each mistake that you've made. Just get it down on paper, and then you can deal with the emotion of it later. So once you categorize things, I want you to start like crossing things off once you feel like you've healed from it or let it go. But how do we do that? How do we get from a place of like, okay, I need to love myself. I'm aware that I am not loving myself fully at this point. I've written all the reasons why I feel I don't love myself. And now I'm at this place where, okay, I've got it on paper. So I want to go back through each of the 4 categories. The first one is the person you want to be versus the person you are today. So I mentioned a little bit when I talked about this. You are essentially like having your own relationship with yourself. So think of it as if you were another person, like your soul and your mind, or whatever you believe. So think of it this way. If you can love another person, your mom, your dad, your spouse, your partner, your best friends, your children, for who they are, despite their flaws, and you know they're not perfect, but love is not about perfection, right? Think about that. Love is not about perfection. Because if we had to wait to love someone until that person was perfect, there would be no love in this world. None. Zero. Zip. So if you can learn to love a person despite the fact that they are not perfect, then you can learn to love yourself despite the fact that you are also not perfect. You are not this saintly version of yourself or this ideal version of yourself, and that is okay. Do we want to strive to be that every day? Yeah. Is it horrible if you don't? No. It's the life you choose, whatever floats your boat, right? So, the person you want to be, the person you are today, in that space is, we have to give ourselves, and this word is great, it's called grace. We have to give ourselves grace. That, like, I'm not the person who I think I should be in this moment, but I'm actively working on it, or I'm aware of it, or you know what? No one's perfect, and that's okay. And, like, we have to realize that in this space of grace, in this space of, like, who I strive to be, who I am, doesn't make you not worthy of love. Just as you love another person because they're not perfect, you also can love yourself even though you are not perfect. So realize that being worthy of love, like, you already are. You already are worthy of love. Period. Now you just have to believe that. So the worthiness of love and the grace that you're going to start giving yourself for not being the perfect self, because you never will be. So you may as well just forgive yourself for that now. And, you know, I strive to be a better person every day. I may be on a faster track in some ways than other people, a slower track in others, and it doesn't really matter. It's what you want, but regardless, you're still worthy of love, no matter how big or small the space between what you feel is your perfect self and what you currently are. So that's how to resolve and work through the things you've listed under that category. Mistakes and decisions. We have all, 100% of us, made a mistake or made a decision that we are not happy with. I have hurt people. I have hurt myself. I have made mistakes that I never thought I could forgive myself for. I have made decisions that I would never have made given the tools I have today. And all of that being said, I want to go back to this idea that, like, you're in a relationship with a self that is not yourself, right? So if you can forgive your parents, your friends, your significant other for the mistakes that they've made throughout your life, the decisions they made that maybe didn't sit right with you or you didn't feel was great, and you can still love them through those things, then you can learn to forgive yourself for decisions and mistakes and love yourself through that, right? So, that's really big. Like, it is really hard. I still work on it every day, trying to forgive myself for certain things. And, you know, there was this whole kind of experiment where these two women wrote down everything negative that they say about each other each day. And they sit in a room facing each other and they read their own messages of self-deprecation to the other girl in the room, as if they were saying it to her, like, you're ugly, you'll never amount to anything, you're worthless. And by the end, the two of the women were bawling because obviously they would never say those to a friend. And so why do we say them to ourselves, right? So if you could forgive a friend for a mistake, you know, a drunken night when they were mean to you, then you can forgive yourself for being the drunk, mean friend, right? And maybe you look at what alcohol does within you or whatnot, but that's not the point. The point is, like, you can forgive others for their mistakes, so it's time that you start forgiving you for yours. Okay? All right. Then the other two, I kind of group into the same response. So society's labels and society's views of who and what you should be, and other people's opinions of you that you've gathered and held on to, and sort of like past experiences you've been through that have given maybe you an opinion of yourself. Let it go. Let it go. Just, whether the people are in your life still or not who've said mean things, like, that's their own toxic behavior coming through. You know, I mean, if somebody's like, hey, you really hurt me when you did this, that's one thing. And that goes back to the section before this about forgiveness and whatnot. But like, if you're not fitting into a mold of what society's telling you to be, then like, good on society. I don't know. I don't fit that mold. If we were all the same, how boring of a world that would be. Think about the people who are outside of the box in this world. You know, they're the most impactful people of all. So if you're a little outside the box, thank God. Thank God you are. Thank God you are exactly who you are. Because where would we be without Steve Jobs, Bill Gates? They didn't go to college and do the traditional method, but they're freaking geniuses, and they've made countless things that have helped us and our society function quicker and better and stay connected, thank God, especially in this quarantine, right? Then you have people like Elon Musk who are thinking outside the box, trying to save our environment. You know, we have scientists, we have so many people, and they don't fit the mold. Like, and that's so great. So great. So when it comes to those kind of things, if you're not fitting in that box, like, good. Get out of that box. Like, find your way out of that box if you are in it. And that brings me to like a really big point is there is literally nobody on this planet who is exactly you. The way you look, the way you talk, your character, your interests, and your purpose, and what you provide to the world. There is not 1 person that is exactly who you are in all of those ways. There is not. Even identical twins, DNA matching and all, have different characteristics, different personalities, different interests. So how amazing is it that you are the only one in this world, and you bring the only thing that you provide this world with something that somebody else doesn't. Like, how fascinating is that? And that was really the thing that sort of pushed me over the edge into like really loving myself, because I'm like, if I was made exactly like this and experienced exactly all the things that I was meant to experience, then essentially I'm here for a reason. And I can't hate myself, because if I hated myself, it would be hating the reason why I'm here. And whatever that is, if you're still figuring that out, like for me, I feel sometimes my words of wisdom come in to help people. I feel like my humor comes in to help people. I feel like my big heart, is always there for people. And so that's what I've found to be really a part of my purpose. And like, where would I be, not in a narcissistic, full of myself way, but like, where would my friends be and my family be if I weren't a part of this world, if I never existed? And that thought was humbling, actually, because I was like, wow, I need to stop acting like I'm worthless, because so many people in my life value my life, right? So, and if you feel like you haven't found your purpose or you don't think you provide anything to this world, you're wrong. Because every person that I follow or follows me, you've 100% impacted me somehow. You have made me smile, made me laugh, made me just grateful of your presence. Like, whatever we've been through, whether I only knew you in high school, like, trust and believe I have some story for each and every one of you that, like, has proven to me that each and every one of you have a purpose and something you provide to the world too. So if you're questioning that, please don't, because I'm already validating for you the fact that you do provide something to this world. So going back, start to cross off this list, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Like, I would definitely try to not prioritize them, but like the easy things versus the more difficult things, and start checking off the easy things, because you're going to get a little confidence, and then you're going to start being able to face those bigger things. Like, I've forgiven myself for a lot of things, but there's still some big ones that I've forgiven myself, but every once in a while I still feel shame or discomfort, and I forget, that I'm human. People make mistakes. People have probably made the same mistakes I have, and that doesn't make me any less or more worthy of love. So again, I just want to reiterate that some of this can be tough. Working through some of the things you find like yucky about yourself. But as hard of work as it may end up being, it's only going to be that much harder the more you go through in life. And what I've noticed is when we do hang on to the yucky stuff, we can express it, not always, but we can express it in a toxic way to the people in our lives. And when you're toxic, that's just another thing that adds to the end of the list of things that you aren't happy about. So the more we start to check off this list and start to create self-love within ourselves, the more we are not perpetuating the toxic behaviors and responses that keep us from truly loving ourselves. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I just think that we can all be sitting with ourselves a lot right now, and you shouldn't have to feel yucky anymore. You're all 100% of you worthy of love, even from yourself, especially from yourself, because when it feels like no one else loves you or loves us, like, at least we 100% know there is still one person on this planet that loves us, and that is ourselves, and that is super important. It can get you through a really, really dark time. And I certainly love you all so much that I want to say, if you listen to this video and you feel there are things on the list that are hard for you to look at or forgive yourself for or move past, and you feel comfortable enough to reach out to me, please do. I've heard it all. I have learned a lot of grace. I am a non-judgmental person. I really just want people to thrive in life and want them to like work through this. That's why I'm even doing this video. So if you're struggling with something and you're stuck and you want a friend to talk it out with and maybe even get some validation that you're not alone and that, you know, people have been in your shoes, like, please reach out to me, or someone else that you know, feel safe talking to, that won't shame you back into a corner of lack of self-love. And let's see, you know, share this video with another person and see if they're willing to check off their lists with you, because it can be easier with somebody else. But it just shows up a lot, and I think it's what a lot of people struggle with. I think that when we don't love ourselves, so many things can come up that aren't self-serving. Again, we can like talk really badly about ourselves. We can treat people really toxically. We can fall into like deep depressions. We can have physical issues that show up. And lastly, we can accept toxic behavior if we're not, if we don't love ourselves, because we believe we deserve it. We believe we deserve physical or mental abuse, and no one does. So all that being said, I hope this video helps you. Like and share. No, I'm kidding, but I'm not. But I hope you all enjoy this and have a lovely rest of your day, and reach out to me if you need. I will be posting this in several different places, so I hope you enjoy.